In this video, I'm going to be giving you an overview of all the base game vehicles in Farming Simulator 22, what they do, how they operate, and what you might use them for. Let's get into it. Alright, so when you first come in to the menu, okay, so this menu here, you've got, let's have a look. From the top, you've got your brands, so all the equipment and machinery broken down by brands. We've got our vehicles menu, we've got our tools menu, which is all your attachments for your tractors and what have you. Objects, which is your seed, your fertilizer, your bales, containers if you've got the platinum expansion, so that's for some logging. The packs, okay, so if you're not sure where to start, for example with potato farming, this gives you an assortment of things that you need to get started with that particular type of farming, okay, so grass, hay, transport, these sorts of things, okay. So it's just the way. So let's have a look at grain, for example. So it just gives you a spectrum of tools that you could use. Okay, you don't have to use these, but just to help give you everything that you need to get started. Okay, so you can buy any of these, all of these. It's up to you. Okay, you've got your used vehicle sales, so that's pretty handy for if you want to pick up machinery at a discounted rate. You've got your owned items. Currently, we don't have any owned items, and then we've got your leased items. So I've got some leased items here for a previous video. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to focus on an explanation of each of these guys. So there's quite a few to get through, so we'll see how long this video goes for, but we'll cover off everything so you've got an overview of what everything does. So starting with the small tractors, so as the name suggests, these guys are small tractors. So these are anything basically up to let's have a look. These are all DLC. So base game 200 horsepower. Okay, so basically let's call them 0 to 200 horsepower. Okay, and you can see that there, okay, in comparison to a much smaller one. So the smallest is the Z-Tor, which I think is standard in the game now, but the Rigitrack electric tractor, so you can see quite small. Okay, now the reason why you would use small tractors is because of small access. So if we go through each one, the Z-Tor, basically just for nostalgia, 25 horsepower, pretty cool, but not really going to be doing a lot of work on a large farm. The Rigitrack, so this is an electric tractor, okay, pretty straightforward. All right, where they start to deviate now is we get into the Landini. So these guys are designed for vineyards and grape farming, so grapes and olives, okay, because they've got a narrow profile, they fit between the rows of the olives and the grapes much easier. Same with this guy. Okay, this is methane powered. Not that it makes a difference. I think this guy is not a vineyard tractor. Okay, this is just getting into slightly larger. This is another vineyard tractor. So you can see in the top UI there, this tractor suits perfectly for grape and olive farming. Once again, very slender. Okay, and our standard tractors here. So basically, the UI kind of will give you a hint as to what these guys are used for. So tractors are required to pull trailers and tools. So that's your standard tractor, okay? So you got your attachment on the back, so your 3-point hitch. And then you've got your front loader if it will receive one. And this is pretty universal for all tractors, okay? You can change your tire type, wide with weights, narrows if you're going to be driving on the crop for crop protection purposes and fertilizing, rear twins for better traction, and front twins for better traction as well, all standard. Now another thing you'll notice is you can change your tyre brand. So this is universal across all tractors, so we'll cover this once and then we won't cover it again, just because basically all the brands, it's just if you want to use a particular brand you can, otherwise just stick with the standard tyres. Another thing you'll notice is the engine setup, okay, so this gives you the option to increase the horsepower up to a predetermined limit. So if we look at the Massey Ferguson MF 3700 AL, it's got a 75 to 95 horsepower range, okay, but it also increases your base price. So you see your purchasing price there of 43 grand plus your options of 10 grand to give you the outright price, or if we want to lease it, we can also do that. License plate you can change, so let's not buy that. Change the license plate, so you can change the license plate here. It's up to you. Alright, so these are the small tractors, okay. Now the tractors will become a little bit more, they'll make a little bit more sense once we start talking about the implements, because some of the implements dictate the size of tractor you have. So the size of tractor will limit the implement that you can use, and vice versa. Okay, these guys are on the cheaper side. 6M, this is a good tractor. I do like this one. Now this one has a PTO on the front, so you can see the yellow shaft there. So that's a power takeoff. Okay, some of these other tractors, such as this guy here, doesn't have a PTO on the front. Okay, so some certain attachments may or may not work, but most of these guys should have a provision for a PTO, or at least a front hitch. So that's going to be for carrying weights. So like this MF5S, looks like it comes standard with a front weight, or we can change to a 3-point. Okay, so there's just a couple of different options that you can select. Valtra A series is the same. This guy looks a little bit more old school. And then we're getting up to the bigger end of the smaller tractors. So you can see 145 to 175, 145 up to 205. Okay, so top of the class price wise would be the class Arion 660 610. Okay, so this guy can attach a front loader, so it's got to be a class front loader for obvious reasons. Some of these other guys will take a front loader. It's usually a Quickie or a Haya. Okay, they're the non-OEM versions of those front loaders. So let's grab this guy. Okay, and we're going to deck him out in the top spec. So 205 horsepower. We'll go standard wheels, front loader. So this would be pretty much how you would want to select and buy it. Okay, so we've got 4 mil, so I might just lease this. Okay, just because I think by the time we get to the end of this tutorial, we're going to have a lot of equipment. And we'll grab the smallest. So let's go to the Z-Tour. It has no options. And let's have a look at these guys. So just in comparison, so smallest of the small, largest of the small. Okay, just to give you a bit of perspective. We'll have a bit of a walk around. So both got a 3-point hitch on the back, so that'll attach pretty much everything in game as required, with the addition of a front PTO and a hitch on the front for this guy. This guy obviously doesn't have any front attachment. All right, let's move on. All right, next up we've got the medium tractors. So as the name suggests, not quite a small tractor, not quite a large tractor. So they start around the 150 horsepower to 200 horsepower. And they will get up to, where are we? 287, so the Deutz-Fahr Series 8 TTV. So that's around the top of the price point. Okay, you can configure that in the Warrior configuration or standard for 236,000. Now this guy doesn't have a front loader attachment available because of its size. Okay, so that's one thing to consider with these guys. So the the John Deere 6R. So this will go up to 300 horsepower. Okay, so if we go the 6050R engine option, takes us up to 300. We get the full spectrum of wheels that we can set up with, and we can also put on any of the front loaders. So it's up to you if you want to go a John Deere, Quickie or a Haya. It's up to you. John Deere is probably the way you'd want to go. So yeah, obviously one thing I'll mention here too is another thing that differentiates the tractors is there's 3 primary factors. So if we go back to the smallest of the small, so the horsepower is 1. Okay, their speed is another. So 50 kph is pretty standard. 40 kph is also quite standard. The JCBs, so the fast track, will do 60 kph, and the sum of the so the Deutz-Fahr will also do 60 kph. There is another one that might be the Class. So somewhere in between. So there seems to be a bit of a trade-off between power and speed and price. Okay, so they're your main variables. Okay, so this guy's 35 kph, 190 horsepower, but quite a bit cheaper. So on and so forth. Okay, so if we go and have a look at top of the line, so 236. We'll grab the 6R series. So we'll go full spec on this one. Grab a John Deere front loader. Pretty standard. So this is how I'd run this one. And then we'll grab the smallest of the small, which is the Massey Ferguson MF670S. And we'll also spec that out to the high end for its capacity. So engine capacity. We'll go a front loader and we'll lease that. So there we go. There's a bit of a size comparison between the largest, one of the largest of the mediums, and the smaller of the mediums. So you can see a little bit of a height difference. Okay. Got our front loader, front PTO, 3-point attacher. This guy's got a 3-point as well. Yep. And both got 3 points on the back. Okay. So you can see that there. You can see that there. So just in comparison to the small tractors versus the mediums, there's the bit of the difference. All right, let's move on to the large tractors. Now this is, if we just start from the smaller end, so once again 296 horsepower to 415, all the way up to where's the base game? So I've got some mods installed, so I will mention that as well. So the ones I'm showing you are the limits. So what's available in the base game? A, if you don't have any DLC, and B, if you don't have any mods installed. So these would be the largest sort of tractors for that category, but there are other options that may be outside of that. Okay. Now, if we have a look at the large tractors, so if we go from here, the versatile 4-wheel drive, so that's 665 horsepower. The Case IH Steiger wheeled AFS Connect series, so that's 692. The John Deere 9RX, that's 670. So you can see the price point varies quite a bit. So this is getting up there in price. So these guys here at the very end, so the T9, the 9RX, the Steiger, and the Versatile, they basically all articulate in the middle. Okay, so they turn from the middle, so there's no steering on the tracks. Okay, so you can see that there. These guys are the same, okay, just because of the weight, the size of these guys. So what I'll do is let's grab this guy. So I'll spec him out, full horsepower, we'll keep the twin wheels. So 692 horsepower, 491,000 to buy. Okay, and then we'll go down the smaller end. Actually work our way backwards because I want to talk about the rest of this lineup, because there's quite a bit of difference. So then we've got our tracked variants. So these guys obviously have a crawler track. Okay, so that's to get across terrain and give you maximum pulling power in real life. Okay, and also it's got a wide footprint to reduce compaction. Although that doesn't impact the game, that's part of the reason why they have this setup. So we've got the 9RT series, okay, with the tracks, the Fendt Vario MT, it's the same deal. And I think there is another one, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the Challenger so the Challenger MT700, same thing, and the Fendt Vario 900. Okay, so that's another variation. Now we do have the 9R series, this guy. So this guy also articulates in the middle, but it has wheels instead of tracks. Okay, so unlike the 9RX, which is this guy here, it's got the track setup. Its counterpart would be this guy here. So it's just a traditional wheel tractor, which we can change the setup of the wheels. Okay, so we can go twins with weights, twin wheels, large single wheels, so on and so forth. Now, this guy here has got a different setup again. So this is the row track. So this is if you're doing row crops. It gives you a wider footprint. So it minimizes basically you can drive in the rows of your crop a lot easier. So if you're doing things like potatoes and such things in real life, that's how that one was to be set up. But it's also to not get the crop destruction penalty, because if you drive, say, for instance, this guy on a crop with crop destruction, you'll get those track widths will just destroy your crop, whereas these guys should not, because they're considered thin, all right, or narrow tires. And they've got a couple of variations on the articulated wheeled tractors here. Okay, so I think this guy actually might have 4-wheel steering. I'm not 100% sure. Could be in the options. That's just the wheel option. So let's grab the smallest of the large, which is basically this guy here, and we'll spec it out to maximum. So 415 horsepower. We'll go standard wheels. we'll go ahead and grab the JCB Fast Track. So this is the fastest tractor in the base game, 70 kph. So I'll grab one of those as well. Then we've got this guy, the Terra Track. So it's got a combination of wheels and tracks. Okay. We will grab, we'll have a look at this guy. So this one's interesting because it's got tracks all round, but the front wheels steer like a normal tractor. So we'll have a look at that. So he goes up to 458 horsepower. Let's grab the Challenger. So a crawler track setup. Spec that out, 413 horsepower. It'll also do a 3 meter track version, which is a bit wider versus the standard. So let's go standard. And then what else have we got? We had a look at this guy. So we'll go, I think we'll go the T9. Okay. So obviously I didn't go full horsepower on that one. And I think we'll go on John Deere 9RX because pretty cool tractor. One I use quite a bit, and we'll just have a look at that. So we'll see a bit of a size comparison. Okay, so here we go. There's our lineup of large. So one of the largest of the large. I might go into the build mode here just to get a better visual. Sort of looking down the line. So these are our smalls. These are our mediums, and then our larges along here. So we've got the Case IH, we've got the Fendt. So this is the smallest of the large. JCB Fast Track, which is the fastest of the large tractors. We've got our John Deere with the tracked steering that turns like a normal tractor. Our crawler track, and then our articulated in the middle. So T9, this one here, steers in the middle. So if I jump into this guy, I'll show you what I mean. So you can see the steering functions just like a normal tractor, however it's tracked. Whereas these guys, if you want to steer them, so I'll just take him out of lineup for a second. So they basically can turn on themselves very tightly. But in real life, it's more for that pulling power. In the game, it's doesn't really impact things too much. Okay, this guy turns in the middle. So you can see that, and then this guy basically does the same. Okay, so that's the difference visually and sort of anatomically with the large tractors. Now another thing I will mention with these guys is the primary thing that you're looking for is the horsepower, the maximum horsepower. So this will dictate the implements that you can pull. So when we get to the tools section, it'll make sense as to why you would use certain tractors over others. So things like pulling plows, cultivators, large seed carts, auger wagons, things like that. When they're fully loaded, going up hills, etc., you need that extra horsepower to get the job done. So that's just a little bit of an overview of the large tractors. Alrighty, let's move on. Right, next up we got trucks. So trucks are pretty straightforward. Range and price and style. So we've got the MAN TGS 18500. So this is a 4x4. Okay, it's got no engine option, just colour. Change the wheels if you'd like. You got your Max, okay, so you can change the designs on these. Now some of these other Max, you can change the engine setup, so you can bump it up to 505 horsepower, 505, and then we've got some expansion trucks here and a mod. Okay, so pretty straightforward. So let's grab this guy, standard, and we'll grab the Mack Anthem, and we'll go a sleeper cab. Actually, no, we'll just go standard with the larger engine. We'll release that, and we will go and check them out. So they should be over here. So obviously the cab over design is a little bit more compact, so the cabs over the wheel give you better turning radius, etc. Whereas this guy is more of your highway road driving truck, so pretty quintessential American Mack truck. Dual wheels on the back, okay, turntable for your trailer, etc. Pretty straightforward. There's plenty of mods that you can download to increase the options for trucks. Okay, so the one that I use a little bit is the Roadrunner Plus. Okay, so you can configure this to 950 horsepower. Sorry, 1800 horsepower and a top speed of 160. So it just makes getting around the map very, very quick and easy. All right, let's move on. All right, next up we've got harvesters. So these are combine harvesters, okay? So these are your grain harvesting machines. Okay, so obviously they range in price from very low down, so 775 grand, all the way up to, in the base game, what do we got? Class Lexion 8900 for 489,500. So these guys all harvest the same crops. Okay, so you can see the crops there down the bottom. So you got wheat, oats, barley, canola, sorghum, sunflower, soybeans, and corn. So you can see that there's the roster mash. The Deutz Fast is the one you start with in New Farmer, New Holland. So you guys can check them out. Basically, all you need to know about these guys is horsepower, top speed, grain tank capacity. So obviously the cheaper end, so the roster mash, 4,900 litres of grain capacity, as opposed to the Class Lexion, which can be configured to have 18,000, okay? Also does 40 kph and 780 horsepower. So let's go the big configuration. Got a different wheel setup as well. So we can go wide tyres, standard tyres, it's up to you. Let's lease that. And we will also grab the roster mash. So that's these guys in their road going configuration, okay? So they're folded ready for road transport. So primary, yeah, like I said, primary difference is basically capacity, speed, price, and horsepower, okay? Now, you do need an appropriate header for these. So one way to find out what header you can purchase is to push R3 for combinations. And the game will suggest options for the headers that this combine can take, okay? So in this case, we've got the Roster Mash Power Stream 500 and the Corn Champion. So this will do corn and sunflowers. And the headers, these standard headers will do your grain crops. So your oats, your wheat, your barley, your sorghum, canola, and soybeans. All right, so while we're here, let's have a quick chat about the headers that you can use. So come down to the tools menu, come across to headers, okay? And we've got a bunch of headers here that will fit various machines, okay? All the way up to, so the John Deere HD50F, okay? 15.2 working width, 10 kph top speed, and it'll do those crops listed in the UI on the bottom right there, okay? Now, there's a couple of differences with these guys. So these guys need to be transported on a trailer, okay? Whereas we have these ones called drapers, okay? Now, these guys are able to be towed behind a combine. So they've got a drawbar, which you can see there, and you can see that there as well. So the drawbar allows you to attach to, there's a little, so you can see the drawbar attachment there, and there's one there. So every combine should have a drawbar attachment to allow you to attach these draper headers. So you can tow the these particular headers behind the combine without the use of a trailer, okay? Now, the combine trailers, I believe, so header trailers, so you just need to find one that marries up to the length of your header, okay? I don't normally use the header trailers. I always use a draper, okay? So it just removes the need to have to tow it, although they are a little bit more expensive, and you want to be using them on a bigger combine just to save yourself some time, okay? But it's up to you. Now, two other caveats to this category is we've got the Capello Helianthus 1200. This is specifically for sunflower seeds, okay? So you can see the sunflower icon there. This header attached to a combine harvester will only do sunflowers. So that's something to keep in mind. And then corn headers, which I believe are in a different section. So there's a smaller Helianthus for sunflower, but all the rest of these guys are for your grain crops, okay? Now, if we go into corn headers while we're here, corn headers need to be attached to your combine to harvest corn and sunflower, okay? So if you're going to do corn and sunflower, you might use one of these guys. The reason why you would use the Helianthus is because it's got a faster working speed of 15 kph, okay? But if you wanted to save money on not having to buy two headers for corn and sunflower, you'd grab one of these guys. So any of these will basically fit. So if we go combinations, it'll recommend the combine that it should go with, and also the trailer. Now, it's up to you if you want to experiment with different headers on different combines not listed here, but my understanding is every combine will fit every header and vice versa, okay? But generally find a combination that works for you and then just stick with it. That's generally what I recommend. Okay. So yeah, either a draper. I've got some mods here as well, but we'll cover that for a different video. Okay. All right. So that's a bit of an overview of the combines. So larger versus smaller and different configurations. All right, let's move on to the next section. Okay. So back to vehicles, forage harvesters. Okay. So a forage harvester basically takes material, okay, and turns it into chaff to turn into silage, okay, among other things. So it can basically do a couple of things. So it can either pick up a crop off the ground with an appropriate header, but primarily what we want to do is it'll harvest. So let's just go back to the class Jaguar, for example. Okay, let's have a look at that. So it's basically got an attachment on the front, okay, to receive the crop and crush it up. And then it's got a pipe out function on the back here, which will shoot that into a trailer or a tow behind trailer or a trailer that goes alongside. It's also got a hitch on the back, so you can tow a trailer with it, okay? You can configure the pipe to be short or long. It's up to you. Now, the price point here is basically lower horsepower, okay? So they don't have a capacity, you'll notice, or 20 litres. So basically they don't have an onboard capacity. They need to unload their whatever they're turning it into chaff. So you can see the chaff symbol is the cut grass next to the green silage additive and the brown wood chips. So that's primarily going to be used for silage production, and they all function pretty much the same way. Okay, so the Crone Big X would be the larger of the assortment. So let's go long pipe on that. We'll just go standard pipe. So we'll lease that guy. We'll grab the class Jaguar, standard configuration, and let's have a look at the combinations. So combinations, so we've got various headers here. Okay, so primary thing here is the working width will change. So that's for transporting headers. These are mowers, I believe. Okay, so I think that's a mower. Okay. And these are pickups, okay? So some of the crops, you can kind of see it's got some blades underneath. Now I've used, basically it'll take all the crops that, except for probably corn, will it? Yeah, so it'll take everything except corn, okay? So these other guys will do corn. And the reason why you would want to do corn is because corn's got high yield, so you get a lot of material out of it that you can turn into chaff, so it's a high yielding crop. Whereas this guy does grass and the other grains. So you can also use grass for silage, okay? So you get chaff from grass as well. So you basically can connect this to your forage harvester, run over your grass, get the cut grass, turn that into silage. Or if you've got one of these guys, you can run that over the corn or any of the indicated crops to give you chaff. But this guy also has the advantage of doing everything but corn. This one has the advantage of doing everything but grass, okay? So that's why that's there. Now we've got a pickup, okay? So this one will pick up, looks like grass, okay? So say if we've got windrows of grass from a mower, okay, we want to pick it up with our forage wagon and put it into a trailer, this is the way we would do it, okay? Or one of the ways we could do it. And then we've got another pickup here, and then we've got some silage additive, okay? Now then they'll just attach to the front of these forage harvesters, as you can see there, okay? Now, the different forage harvesters may or may not have different options. So this guy here will do poplars as well. So if you drive through poplars, this will mulch them up, turn them into wood chips. They all share similar attachments. So they've got a trailer connection on the back here, so you can see that just there. And that's there as well. So certain trailers will be able to connect up to these guys. And so anything with a drawbar and pin. So usually the bigger trailers, so you can connect a trailer to the back, attach the appropriate header. It'll cut through the crop, load your trailer, and away you go. Okay. So that's a brief overview of the forage harvesters. Let's move on. Okay, potato technology. Pretty straightforward. We've got a self-propelled potato harvester. Okay. So this is it here. Basically what we've got a topper in the front, so when the potatoes are ready to harvest. So if you want to find out more about potatoes, check out my potato farm guide where we go through it a little bit more detail. So the potatoes grow underground, but its foliage grows above ground. So when they're ready to harvest, you've got to remove the green tops, okay? And then the next part of the machine, which is sort of just after the front of it, where this conveyor belt is, that digs up the potatoes out of the ground. Then you've got the hopper and conveyor belt into the middle of the machine where the potatoes are stored. And then you've got this yellow conveyor belt, which is your pipe out, okay, to unload your potatoes. So it's basically an all-in-one machine. So it tops, collects, stores, and then unloads based on, so we'll lease it and have a look at it while we're here. So currently it's in its folded configuration for road transport. Okay, so you can drive it around, etc. Pretty cool interior. It's also got four-wheel steering, so you can see that there. And it's also quite long, okay, so just something to be something to be careful of when you're driving it around. But it basically allows you to harvest potatoes much more efficiently as opposed to the counterparts in the potato technology, the toe behind potato harvesters, which is something like this. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. But that is the potato technology. Okay, balers. So this is the Vermeer self-propelled baler. So if you've got the Vermeer pack, you can have access to this guy. It's a paid DLC. It's basically a baler that you drive rather than tow behind. So I've got a bit of a video explainer on this guy as well if you want to check it out in a bit more detail. But basically, it's an all-in-one baling unit rather than having a tractor and baler combination. Okay, that is that. All right, Beet Technology. Okay, so in the Beet Technology, we've got three base game. So we've got the Roper Panther, Grimmy Rexor 6300 Platinum, Roper Tiger 6S, and the Mouse 5. Okay, so these guys will just do sugar beets. The potato harvester we just pulled out before will just do potatoes. Now the Grimmy is very similar to the the potato harvester, but it's configured for sugar beets. Pretty much functions the exact same way. The Roper Panther 2 and the Tiger S, same thing again. It's just the capacity increases. So we've got the Panther 2's got 30 cubic meters, the Grimmy's got 45, and the Tiger S has got 43 cubic meters of capacity. Okay, so that just means how many crops can be held in the storage area. Now, one thing you need to do with the Roper Panther and the Tiger S, so if we go R for combinations, R3 for combinations, it gives you the appropriate header that works with that machine, which you will find individually in Beet Technology. So that's these two here, okay? So you want to kind of marry up the, where are we? Beet Technology. You just want to marry up the correct header for the correct machine. Gives you slightly more working width, I think, with the others, but basically much of a muchness. Okay, but you do need to lease or purchase a header that will fit that. So let's grab this guy. I'll have a quick look. So you can see that there. So header goes on the front, hopper in the middle, and then we've got a pipe out conveyor belt just here. I think it's on this side. Yeah. So that'll unfold and pipe out your sugar beets when you're harvesting it. Okay. So once again, if you're not sure what R3 for combinations on PS5, on PC, I'm not sure what it is. You've also got a trailer here if you want to put that on there. Okay. But I don't think these guys have got a provision for a trailer hitch. Well, they might do. So you can see it just there. So if you want to tow that around, I think the Grimmy will have one as well, potentially. Maybe not. So you just got to be aware of that. But I don't think this header detaches, so it wouldn't need to go on a trailer. Okay, it's just the ones that don't come with a trailer, a header standard, that you have to get a header from the shop to make it work. All right, let's move on to. Oh, sorry, there's one more in the. So the Roper Mouse 5. So what this thing does is it basically picks up sugar beets off the ground and loads them into a trailer. Okay, so basically when you're doing the way they do sugar beet farming in real life is the sugar beet harvesters, so these guys will come along at the edge of the field, unload their sugar beets onto the side of the field into these massive huge piles. And then a machine like the Roper Mouse 5 will come along, so that the attachment on the front there that's folded up comes out like a big shovel, for lack of a better word. The auger rollers that you can see on the left-hand side here, they fold out flat, and they just basically pick up all the sugar beets into this internal storage, and then it's got a conveyor belt that folds out that you can use to load trucks and stuff, okay? So it's more of a authentic machine if you want to go down that path, and if you're familiar with sugar beet farming in real life, that's how they do it, okay? So that's this guy here. I've got a sugar beet farming video that explains a little bit more how to use this guy if you want to go down that path, so definitely check that out. Right, vegetable technology, so this is part of the premium expansion. So this is the DeWolf ZK-IV SE. It's a 4-row top lifting root crop harvester, so for carrots, parsnips, red beets, okay? So basically what happens here is drives along 4 rows in front, pick up the crop out of the ground. It's got a small, very, very small internal storage tank, but it pipes out pretty much straight away. So you need to basically drive alongside this thing to unload because there's no capacity, okay? So basically if you're a solo player, you need to put this guy to work as a worker in your field and then drive alongside and empty as you go, okay? So that's specifically for the premium expansion root crops, so carrots, parsnips, and red beets. Okay, pretty cool machine if you've got the premium expansion, but it is a little bit of a pain that it doesn't have a capacity, okay? So just be aware of that. There are workarounds online, so you can check out. There's some mods that you can use to give it an artificial capacity, but generally speaking, you need to use a worker. Or if you've got friends to play with, team up and tackle your harvest together with this machine. All right, next up we've got Sugarcane Technology. So in the base game, we've just got the one harvester, so the Case IH Ostov 8800 multi-row, okay? So this is for sugarcane, so sugarcane only, so very specific. So it's 353 horsepower, 10 kph top speed, 2 meter working width. So let's have a quick look. So basically it's got a cutter on the front, so actually what I'll do is I'll lease it. And it does come with a trailer and a hitch, okay? So you probably want to put the trailer and a hitch on there so you can actually tow something behind it and then drop your crop into it. Okay, so it works, it almost functions very similar to the DeWolf harvester we just talked about, but you can attach. Did I get the? I think I didn't get the attachment. So anyway, that'll show up down there, and you do have the possibility to tow trailers with this, okay, as you go through. But basically the sugarcane comes in through these rollers, gets topped up the top there, okay. Sugarcane is separated and it pipes out directly into an awaiting trailer. So a good way to do this is basically drive alongside, get the worker to drive it, and harvest your sugarcane that way. And sugarcane is quite high yielding, so, and it's also, you plant it once and it grows back over time. You don't have to replant it, okay? So that's one of the benefits of sugarcane. But because of the type of crop that it is, you're limited to the 2-row harvester unless you've got mods installed, which I think you can push up to 4 rows, okay? I think it's like a Jatco. It's an orange machine from memory, but that's basically for sugarcane harvesting only. All right, let's move on to cotton technology. So in the base game, there's 2 primary choices. So you've got the Case IH Module Express and the John Deere CP 690. So the main difference here is one will do a square bale. So this will do a 488 centimeter square bale. So this is the Case IH. So you can see it's got a squarish baler on the back. So the bale comes out the back once it is full. And then you've got your cotton harvesting headers in the front. Okay. So it'll do 6 meters. This guy will do 6 meters as well. But this guy's got more of a rounder, so it's a bit hard to see when it's closed up. But it'll roll out a giant round bale out the back, okay? So it's just whether you want to do round bales versus square bales, but the price difference is pretty prominent, so depending on what you want to do, I'd probably go square just to save on time and money. But if you really want to use the John Deere, it's here to be used as well. Okay. But they both basically do the same thing, harvest cotton. The difference is one's for a round bale and one's for a square bale. Okay. All right, here we go. So this is the John Deere. So I went through the John Deere after all. But yeah, cotton goes in through here, gets harvested up through these little vacuum tubes into the hopper down the back here, and this will roll up around cotton bale, and then it'll jump it out the back, ready for collection. Okay, so that is the cotton harvester. Okay, let's jump into the next section. All right, next up, let's take a look at Grape Technology. Okay, so in the base game, we've got the Broad 9070L from New Holland. These guys are DLC as part of the season passes, okay? But we'll just focus on this guy. So this guy is for, what do we say, grapes. So grape harvesting specifically. So basically the grapes, you drive over the grapevines through the middle of the machine here. It basically oscillates and shakes the vine, collecting the grapes in this case. It's got 2 onboard storage tanks, so you can see them there on the left and the right, and then it pipes out from the rear. So let's have a look at this. We'll go ahead and lease one. So that's this guy right here. So pretty compact. Okay, that's where the harvesting takes place. You sit up in top of the cab overlooking the vines. Okay, and it's obviously narrow enough to get between the grapevines. Okay, now its counterpart is the Broad 9090X olive. Okay, so this one is configured for olives. Okay, so slightly different front opening, only does olives, basically functions on the same premise. It's got a slightly different auger wagon setup, pipe out function. So let's grab that and we'll have a look at them side by side. So very similar, might be a little bit taller, but these guys do raise up when you get in to operate them, okay, to reach over the top of the grapevines and olive vines respectively. So if I jump into this guy, unfold, so you can see he'll lift up there, get to the working height, which is substantially taller than our starting position. Okay, so just as a comparison, looking at these two guys side by side, so you can see that there. So that's the grape harvester and the olive harvester. Okay, let's move on. Okay, forestry machinery is the next one. So this is basically your heavy equipment for forestry. Okay, so there's a bit of a price range up until we get to where are we? So we've got three brands to choose from: Komatsu, Ponce, and Rotney. And basically what they have is a combination of a harvester, which is this guy here. This is a tree harvester, and a forwarder. Okay, so an all-terrain vehicle with a loading crane and a trailer to take the logs basically from the cut down site. Okay, so the side of where the trees are getting cut down. Then you can use a forwarder to get over rough terrain, so say up and down hills or steep terrain where there's no tracks. This is where this guy would come in. Now you don't need to use the forwarder, but basically they come in a sort of a pigeon pair, so with harvester and forwarder, and then they basically just go up in price. So basically the differences here is the diameter of a tree that they can cut down. So this one will do up to 71 centimeters. So that's the Komatsu. The Ponce will do 64, and the Rotney will do 80. Okay, so the diameter of the tree is the limiting factor, and then obviously the horsepower and the size of the forwarder as well. Okay, so let's grab the Rotney tree harvester and its forwarder counterpart. So you can see these guys here. So let's jump into the build mode to get a bit of an aerial view. So they basically have the same sort of chassis setup, 4-wheel setup, 8-wheel drive. This one's obviously got the cab in the middle. This one's got the cab in the front. And you can obviously, I think you can switch the driving position around. So when you're facing this way, you can do the loading. And then when you're facing forwards, you're obviously facing forwards driving. So that's basically those two options for logging, okay? So they're not exclusively, this obviously is exclusively for logging, But this you can use the chainsaw, cut down the trees, then load. But they're basically designed to work in tandem, okay? And that goes for the Ponce and the Komatsu as well. Now we've got the MAN TGX 26640. Now this is just a log loading truck. So it's got a loading arm on the back, pal finger crane. Okay, so that'll basically pick the logs up, load them onto your vehicle. Instead of using an all-terrain forwarder, okay, you can use this guy. Okay, so if the terrain is flatter and you're closer to a road, this might be a better option. But if you're driving up and down hills over stumps, these are the way to go, because the wheels will handle the different terrains much easier. Okay, the Gens Cobra Hybrid. This is a mulcher. Okay, so basically this will take. So when it unfolds, you've got a. So let's just go ahead and lease that so we can have a look at it. Drive it to the place where you want to do the mulching. This green outlet spout will basically make a pile of wood chips on the ground for you. And then this crane arm will feed the chipper, which unfolds. And I think it's just behind this panel here. But its purpose in life and primary function is to create wood chips. Okay. So that's the Gens Cobra Hybrid. Next thing we've got is the Prinoff Raptor 300. Okay, so this is a forestry mulcher. So this is the platform itself without an attachment. Okay, so I do believe it has an attachment on the front only. Okay, so it'll take a mulching attachment. So once again, hit up the combinations and it'll take a forestry mulcher here. Okay, so the mulcher is just under there. So you basically attach that to the front. So let's pull this out and have a look. So it should be right here. So quite small, quite compact. Mulcher attachment goes in the front. Well protected from the debris and dangers of forestry. Okay. And like I said, the Prinoff M650. So this is in forestry machines. So if we just quickly go and have a look. While we're here, so let's find forestry. So that's this guy just here. Okay, M650. It's also got a cultivator on the front that acts as a plow, so you can also clear the land and then plow it up and cultivate it at the same time. Okay, so if you want to make a path through a forest or through some bushland or whatever, this is the machine that you can use for that purpose. Okay. So that is pretty much all the base game forestry equipment. Then we've got some platinum expansion stuff here, but we will cover that in a separate video. So this is all base game up until the Prinoff Raptor 300. Let's move on. Okay, next up we've got the animals section. So in the animals section, we've got these 4 vehicles, okay? So basically what these are forage mixers that basically mix up cow feed or animal feed, primarily cow feed in this case, because you can use it to create TMR, forage. So TMR is total mixed ration, so that's the optimal feed for cows to make, so they make the most milk. Primary difference here is obviously the cost, horsepower, rating, and capacity of the feed tank. So if we grab this guy here, so this is the Straussman, so it's got a 17 cubic meter capacity, so you can see the mixer in the middle there. And then it's got a milling blade on the front to pick up the silage or cut through, the silage in a silage bunker. But it also has the provision to take those items down there, so straw, forage, hay, TMR, and straw to make, and silage to make total mixed ration for cows. So basically same way, same function, etc. So we'll grab the Kun SPW Intense. So I'm just going to lease that and we'll have a bit of a look. So this is the milling blade in the front here. So if I jump in here, now I've got a video on cows that runs through how to use this machine a lot more in depth. So there's your milling blade in the front. So if we turn this on, so that'll now pick up material off the floor or in a silage bunker. So obviously the reason why it goes up quite high is because the silage bunkers can be quite built up in height. Okay, and then this is just used to scrape the surface of the silage out of the bunker and then throw it into the mixer. So obviously the blades are going there to mix up your food, and then you get the correct ratio of food. When I say food, the straw, silage and hay to make TMR, okay? So I won't go into that now, but there's a full recipe that you need to follow to get the optimal feed. And this is just one way to do it. So basically you mix it up, and then it's got an unloading point either here. So when you go through the drive-through barn, or here, and it'll shoot the food out either the left or to the right to feed the cows. So you basically just drive along the row of cows, dump out the food, and away you go. So that is the forage mixes, okay? What to choose from. All right, let's move on. Crop protection's the next one. So we've got two base games. So we've got the Berthoud Bruin 4200 or the Rubicon 9000. Two main differences here is basically the liquid capacity for the pesticide or the herbicide or fertilizer, and obviously the working width of the boom. So this will do 48.5 meters, this will do 36. So I'll grab the smaller of the two. So it's got the narrow tires. The boom arms will fold out to cover a larger area. This one is obviously quite huge. So this will also, when you get in it, it'll stand up to give you a bit more. So if we go unfold sprayer, this is going to start trying to push the boom out. So let's stop that. But you can see it spread its wheels. Next step, the boom would come out, and then you can cover a larger area for fertilization and getting rid of weeds much quickly, or much faster. So that is the self-propelled sprayers, crop protection, and there's one in the premium expansion, so the Agrio Dino 2. But the Rubicon and the Bruin are all base game. Okay, so that is those guys. Right, next up we've got slurry tanks. So we've got two in the base game. We've got the Vervet Hydro Trike and the Oxbow LNMS. Okay, so what these basically do is they carry digestate or slurry, okay, and then you can attach a slurry spreader to the back, okay, and use that to fertilize your fields. All right, so if we have a look at this guy, it's got an attachment on the back there. So if we go into combinations for each of these, it'll show you an appropriate slurry spreader that will attach to the back. Now, slurry spreading is basically taking animal waste, so specifically from cows and pigs, so they produce a slurry when they drink water, which can be used as a fertilizer. So let's go grab the Hydrotrike just so we can have a look at it. So obviously it's a Hydrotrike because it's got one wheel in the front and then a couple of big beefy wheels at the back to carry the weight, and then obviously the tank in the middle, and then your silage spreader would go on the back. Okay, so it's basically obviously a large tank capacity vehicle to get slurry from point A to point B, if you didn't want to use a dedicated trailer. Okay, but for the cost perspective, you're probably better off just using a trailer and a tractor because it's about significantly cheaper. All right, but these guys just have, and then we've got the slurry filler on the side here, which is obviously how it gets filled and then transported to the field, and then get your slurry application down. So you can basically get a fertilization state into your field without having to use a paid for fertilizer. Okay, so that's the slurry tanks. Next up we've got the mowers. So in the base game we've got this guy, which is just a push behind mower. So we'll go and have a look at that, if I can see where it is. Yep, just over there. I think we're running out of space again, so we'll have to sort that out in a second. But this here, basically just a walk behind mower. So if we enter the vehicle, turn it on, basically just cuts the grass like that. Okay, so that's one option. And then we have the Krone Big M of this guy down here. So this is a self-propelled mower. So I'll just drive it out so we can unfold it. So I'll unfold the mower. So basically the mowers come out from the side. Now the benefit to this guy is basically the working width. So you've got 10 meters, but you've also got a working speed of 25 kph, okay, which is significantly faster than a tractor. So it raises up, lower the mowers, turn the mower on, and then basically, because it steers from the rear, it's quite maneuverable, and it just allows you to whip around, cut your grass very quickly. Now this also has what is called work mode, so it'll swath drop in the middle, it'll swath drop to the left or to the right. Okay, So what that'll basically do is it'll make a pile of grass in a row based on your needs, okay? So whatever you want to do. So let's go and park him up just over here for a moment. But that is the mowers, or the mower, the self-propelled mower, Krone Big M 450. All right, let's move on. Front loaders. Okay, so front loaders, pretty straightforward. Basically pick up things off the ground in buckets or pallet forks or whatever. You've got a couple of different options based on size and capacity. So if we go into here, I'll just lease this guy. Okay, delivery space is blocked. So I'll just move some stuff and then we'll come back in. All right, so here it is here. So quite small, okay, compact front loader. Basically all you need to do to get this working is come into the combinations screen and it'll give you a whole bunch of options to what you can connect to it. So this is pretty universal for all front loaders, wheel loaders, and loaders of this sort. So you've got a universal bucket, which will pick up pretty much any product in the game, allow you to load trailers with it. Just connects to the front of the front loader, okay? Manure fork, log fork with grapple, silage cutter, bale spike, bale handler, round bale fork, bale king, pallet fork, obviously for pallets, log fork, big bag handlers, so a single and a double. We've also got a sugar beet cutter, okay? So it'll also pick up product, but it'll also use this specifically for cut sugar beet. And then we've got some DLC. Okay, so I won't go through each one of those now, but that's basically where you find the options for that. All right, let's move on. So wheel loaders is the next one. So basically a wheel loader is a front loader, but much bigger and much more capacity to lift things, okay? Basically, all you really need to know is the size difference. So this is probably the larger end. So what do we got? 224 horsepower, 19.7 tons. I think that's the weight of the machine. So that's 14.5, 9.1. And then obviously we've got some premium expansion. So the Volvo L180H, I think, is the biggest, well, or one of the biggest front loaders. There are some mods, but obviously this guy can lift quite a bit. Okay, and it's specific for logging because obviously the Platinum expansion was a logging DLC. So that's how these guys came into the game. But if we look at this guy here, see if I can lease it. We haven't got enough room. I'll just quickly move the slurry tank. So you can see the difference in size. So much bigger compared to the smaller counterpart. All right. The only difference now is this will take a wheel loader front tool instead of a front loader tool. Okay, so what I mean by that is wheel loader, come into the one that you want to look at, check your combinations, and now we've got wheel loader specific tools, okay? So to find those, in the tool section, they are under the wheel loader tools section, okay? So if we go combinations from here, like we talked about, and it's got a whole range of, so we've got a high dump bucket, log fork, pallet fork, another high dump bucket, which I think has a little bit more capacity, which it does, bale fork, silage fork, log fork, the Hulk, which can be used to move silage, chaff, that sort of thing. And then you got your Platinum expansion stuff, okay? Pretty much the high dump buckets are the one you're going to be using for these guys, and potentially the log fork as well. Pallet fork if you're so inclined, but basically anything bigger and heavier that you need to move around, and a lot more of it, that's probably the path you want to go down. Save you time having, so this will obviously do more loads quicker than what this will, and it can also handle more weight, okay? That's the whole point. All right, telehandlers is the next one. So the telehandlers, if you don't know, so actually what I'm going to do is quickly move some stuff out of the way. All right, so let's have a look at the telehandlers. So if you're not familiar with what a telehandler is, basically it's similar to a wheel loader and a front loader, except it's got a telescopic boom on the front that allows the boom arm to come out forward of the telehandler. So I'll demonstrate that in a minute, but basically we've got different price points and different lifting capacities. So obviously the lighter versions will lift smaller stuff. These guys, a little bit more compact, and then up into the Schaefer 960, so this will do bigger loads. Let's have a look at the TH 7.42 Elite. Okay, so that's this guy here. And they're all pretty much going to function the same way. Okay, so this price point and lifting capacity is what varies. So if we go ahead, locate this guy, which I think is just over here. So telehandler tools go on the front there. It's also got a drawbar and hitch on the back. Okay, so you can tow stuff. We're basically a telehandler. So it's got the up and down function, but it's also got the boom out function. So hence the name telehandler. Okay, so it just allows you to reach up higher and further than you normally would with your attachment on there. Okay, so this particular one doesn't have it. It's got about that, goes out about that far. Okay, so that is the advantage of the telehandler. And then obviously you've got four-wheel steering. You have got alternate steering modes, so front wheel only. And then I think we've got crab steering somewhere in here as well. So crab steering just allows for more maneuverability based on your needs. So crab left, crab right, and then back to all-wheel. Okay. Now, to find the tools that are appropriate for this, basically any of the telehandlers, they're all pretty much the same. Come into combinations. In the tools section, it'll take you to the telehandler specific tools, and these are all universal across all telehandlers. So we've got bale fork, wrap bale handler, universal bucket, manure fork, log fork for logging, pallet fork, and then we've got some mods. Okay. So yeah, just allows you to get more out of your machine depending on what you need to do, but that is the telehandler. One of my favorite tools to use in game, or vehicles and tool combinations. Very, very handy. It does a lot of different jobs. All right, next up we got skid steers. So 2 in the base game. One is a wheeled version. Okay. The other is a tracked version. That's pretty much the only difference. Very, very similar otherwise. So let's grab one of these guys, have a look. Now you can see quite small and quite compact. So if you're in a tight area where you don't have a lot of space, this is where you might consider using a skid steer. Okay, pretty cool to whip around in, highly maneuverable, all that sort of stuff. And they do have some unique tools that you can utilize. So if we come into skid steers, check the combinations. So we've got the standard dump bucket, we've got the pallet fork, bale spear, manure fork, bale handler, with the addition of a stump grinder. Okay, so this is one of the only tools that can equip a stump grinder. There are a couple of others, but this is unique to the skid steer loaders. They've got the brush and log fork, which will get rid of basic brush and pick up logs as well. And if you're a platinum expansion owner, you can use the jackhammer for stone removal contracts. Okay, so pretty straightforward, just another option. Pretty cheap, economical. Does have some limitations on how much you can lift and how high, whereas the telehandler obviously has the height and length advantage, and it will basically do everything except stump grind, as opposed to your skid steer. But just depends on what you want to do. Just try it out. It's all good. All right, next up we've got the Forklifts. So in the base game, we've got the Matnow MC1840, which is basically like I wouldn't say an all-terrain forklift, but a better over rough terrain because it's got bigger wheels. Then we've got the Jungerich EGFG S50, which is more what you would probably find in a warehousing environment. And this guy, I believe, is also electric. Okay, so diesel powered versus electric. Okay, and then we've got another one, which is what you would find inside, a warehouse or picking facility. So obviously you've got the side saddle control setup, whereas this guy, it's not as compact. So this is going to be going through warehouses in the aisles, and it's got quite a larger or higher reach capacity. Okay, as opposed to these guys. So these are like for loading trucks and stuff, or unloading semi-trailers in loading distribution centers, etc. And these guys would be used in the actual warehousing environment because of their compact footprint and their high ability to get into storage racks and stuff. And then we've got a platinum expansion mat now, which is much bigger lifting capacity. So it is 8.3 tons. So let's have a look at this guy. So this is one I use quite a bit. So in comparison to the telehandler and the skid steer, So obviously we've got the up and down function. Nothing too crazy here. So it's obviously got a limited amount of boom space, tilt back and forward, and then just highly maneuverable, pretty responsive, so good for moving pallets around quickly. And this guy here will do the job as well. The only thing with this one is you've got to push the forks out away from the machine to pick up your pallets in the first place, whereas these guys, the pallet forks are already out exposed. So these are more for like your deep reach applications, so inside of warehousing. So I don't think there's any warehousing. You have to get mods to get warehouse buildings. So this is where you might use that as opposed to these guys just outside moving stuff around, specifically pallets. All right, that is the forklift. Let's move on. All right, in the cars section, we've got, so next up we've got cars. So in the cars section, we've got a couple of just, general get around cars. So we've got the John Deere XUV 865M. So this is just a little runaround. Now it does have a capacity, so it's got a 1 ton capacity on the back, so you can put product in there. Okay, in its little trailer area there. Top speed of 50 kph. You've got the Mahindra Retriever, which basically functions the same way. It's got a 97 kph top speed, so a little bit quicker to get around. Okay. Now this is just in case you don't want to walk everywhere, or you just, you want to drive a car around. And then we've also got our traditional road going cars. So the Lizard pickup in new farmer mode just start out with a variation of this guy, 120 kph top speed, and it's got a capacity in the back as well, but you can put product in the back, okay? Particularly a pallet or something if you want to load it up that way. It's up to you. And then you got the Lizard pickup, which basically functions the same way, but it's just more of a modern vehicle as opposed to a older style pickup. And then we've got some DLC from Kubota, which I think was part of the Kubota pack, which is a paid DLC from the season pass, but you can get it separately. But yeah, they're basically your vehicles. Pretty straightforward. Just depends if you want to use them or not. That's it for cars. So let's just grab a Mahindra Retriever. We'll have a quick look at it. So pretty small, similar to like a quad bike or something, but not quite a quad bike on a farm. Just another way of getting around. All right, miscellaneous. So we've got a couple of things to talk about here. So specifically the Prinoff Letwolf AgriPower. So this is a silage pusher, for lack of a better word, silage leveler. So it's got a leveling blade on the front. It's got big wide tracks and the ability to move a lot of material around easily. Okay. Now I think this is also used as a snow plow or a snow blower. So the platform is the same, but for the purposes of the game, it's a silage leveler. So you can see in the top UI there, levelers are used to move chaff and silage and level the heaps in the silo. So if you're doing silage and you need, a big silage operation, this is a good option to move your silage into the bunkers and compact them. You can also use it to move other things around on the farm, like snow. I think you can use it for snow, but its primary purpose in the game is for silage compaction and leveling. Okay. Now we've got the Roper Nowa Romass, which is similar to the Roper Mass for just sugar beets, but this guy will pick up all those crops listed down below and load them into trailers. Okay. So it's got a auger that sits on the front that will scoop up everything off the ground, and it's got a conveyor belt that'll unfold and allow you to load a truck or a trailer or some other vehicle to get your product from the ground into some sort of storage or transport. So let's see if we can have a look at this guy. All right, so this is the Roper Nowa Romass 5. So pretty big machine. So I'm just going to roll back a little bit, see if we can unfold it. So basically, like I said before, the rolls will come out to the front. Okay, so if we lower the loading vehicle, well, that's going to hopefully not knock everything over. Okay, so basically what happens is if you drive up to our product that's on the ground, this machine will pick it up there, take it through a series of conveyor belts, okay, and out to this conveyor belt and load it into an awaiting trailer. or some other area. Okay, but basically it's just designed to pick up stuff off the ground. Got a counterbalance weight there, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so it's got a bit of a limited use case, but it'll do everything listed below, so various crops. And then its other counterpart is in the sugar beet section, so Beet Technology, which is the Roper Mowers 5, which will just do sugar beets. It won't do anything else. Okay, so just something to keep in mind if you want to go down that path. All right, we'll get this unfolded or folded back up, and that basically concludes all the base game vehicles. So there you have it, guys, my guide to the base game vehicles in Farming Simulator 22. If you like this video, leave a like on it. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. If you've got any questions, or if you're not sure about any of the vehicles, what they do, where to find them, let me know down below. If I've missed anything important to mention, throw that in the comments as well so other people can see it and learn from it as well. But thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.